Good afternoon, and welcome to 365 Days of Stories with the Omer. Today, I'm hoping I finish the story of Lenka, the fisherman's daughter. So, I left the story off. The king was coming back from his journey, and there in the road before him was a man casting a net into the road and pulling it in and making a dust cloud every time he did. And the king from a distance watched a little while, and then he rode up and he asked, "My good man, what is it that you're doing here? What are you trying to do?" And the farmer, he said, "Well, in this land where broom carts can give birth to horses, I thought I'd try fishing here in the middle of the road. Who knows? Maybe there's fish right here in this dust." The king paused. Ah, yes, now I remember you. Oh, really? Did I make a decision like that? I gave that horse... I'm sorry. Well, come, walk with me as I ride, and let's talk about this a little bit. Well, the king had some knowing of maybe there was some influence, so he asked the farmer, "Tell me, please, that day that we met, you weren't as witty as you are today. Has somebody helped you to figure out what to say to me so that I would get the picture?" No, said the farmer. No, nobody. But he looked a little bit odd as he was talking. So the king said, "No, really, it's quite fine. If somebody helped you, I'd like to make sure that they're compensated properly." Well, they went back and forth for quite a while, and finally the farmer gave in and said, Yes, sire, it was your wife, Lenka. She was the one that helped me. She helped me. She told me what to say." "Ah, she is a wise one, isn't she? Well, I tell you what, come with me. And since I've, made it so that you've lost a horse, let's pick one out of my stables for you. Would that do?" "Oh, yes, my king, that would be wonderful," said the farmer. So on they went, and they made their way to the palace, and the farmer did get a beautiful horse out of the whole bargain. The king went and met with Lenka, and she was so delighted to see him and him to see her. But she could tell that something was going on a little bit. And he said, "Well, it's very unfortunate, but the farmer, who I ended up giving a horse to, let me know that you had helped him out. And we had made an agreement when we first were married that you would not interfere with any of my rulings, with any of my royal decision making. And here you've gone ahead and done that. And, the consequence makes me very sad. I said to you that if you did that, I would have to ask you to leave. I tell you what, let's have a wonderful dinner together, and you can leave in the morning." Well, the king couldn't believe what he'd gotten himself into with that whole thing, but he couldn't, his ego was just so strong. He couldn't give in. He couldn't make himself wrong. Lenka had thought, once he sees how foolish he had been with that decision, he'll thank me. But the king was stubborn. But they did have an incredibly beautiful dinner together. The king went all out and had the best of food prepared, and they had a beautiful bottle of wine from the king's vineyard. And, well, they were laughing as if nothing at all was going on. In a certain way, maybe there wasn't. And Lenka, she'd done some work between the time she talked to the king and the time they were eating dinner. She had a sleeping powder ready, and when he wasn't watching, she poured it into his wine glass. Before you know it, he was asleep. Now, she'd made other preparations as well. Now, I will tell you that there was one thing that the king said when they talked when he first came back to the palace, and he was giving her the bad news that she was going to have to leave. He had told her that because the king, he said, because I can hardly live with myself with all this, you can take whatever it is, the most, you can take whatever you want here from the palace. Take it with you. Take it with you. I don't know how I'm going to live with this, he said. But I don't know what else to do. So Lenka had thought, okay, cool, I get to take whatever I want with me. So she was loved by all of the people in the palace, you know, all the people that served the king. Perhaps in part because she was just so genuine, just so down to earth. And she did not think herself above anyone, even though she was the queen. So she had gone to a few of her trusted friends there, and she had made arrangements that once the king fell asleep, they would come in, load him into a chest, take the chest out into the courtyard where a carriage would be awaiting, and Lenka would ride the carriage home with the king in it. And so that's what happened. King fell asleep, got loaded into the chest, which had some cushioning in it. It wasn't just a hard box. They loaded the box onto the carriage that was waiting there in the courtyard, and Lenka drove it to her house in the little town, the little house that she'd grown up in. And her friends helped her unload the king in the crate, carry it into the house, unload the king into Lenka's bed in her bedroom, and then take the chest and the carriage and the horse away. Well, morning came. And Lenka woke up, and she just laid there next to the king. And eventually, that sleeping powder that she had put in there wore off. And the king opened his eyes. And he looked at Lenka and smiled as if all was well. And then he looked up and looked around, and he didn't recognize anything. Though he'd been in that house before, he'd never seen it from laying down on his back in Lenka's bed. He said, where am I? The sun was coming in through the window of the room and this beautiful blue sky. Where am I? He asked again. Oh, my love, said Lenka. You're here at my house. Don't you remember? You sent me away yesterday, told me that I needed to leave. And the nice thing is that you told me that I could take whatever I wanted with me, my favorite thing. You said I could take my favorite thing with me. And I don't like or love anything as much as I do you. You're my favorite. So I brought you. The king, he just started laughing. His eyes grew bright with joy and love. Lenka had gotten him out of a pretty tough situation. I'll tell you. They had a beautiful morning together. Lenka's father was certainly super glad to have the two of them there. And I guess they even stayed a couple more days and kind of had a nice time there in the town. And, well, needless to say, they went back to the palace together. And the king made a new agreement with Lenka that she was welcome to share whatever it is that she wanted to in regards to any of the decisions that he was making, had made, or was thinking about making. And as it turned out, Lenka became his most trusted and most lovely advisor ever. Well, as far as I know, the king and Lenka are living quite happily to this very day in a beautiful land not so very far from here. Well, that's the story of Lenka, the fisherman's daughter. I think there's a lot of lessons in this story. It is rich with lessons. It's like a treasure all unto itself. Thanks for joining. Hope you have a good day, and we'll see what's next tomorrow. Okay, have a good rest of your day.